Good evening, sir and madam, and I guys. Today we're going to talk about Melaka. I'm Karunanidhi Narayanasamy, and my metric number is JK13070/19. So first of all, I'm going to talk little bit about history of Melaka. As a Malaysian, all of us should know about Melaka. So I'm going to start about history of Melaka. In the late 14th century, Melaka was a simple fishing village. Parameswara is a fleeing prince from nearby Sumatra, and he landed on Melaka shores and founded the city and turned it into a favored port of waiting out monsoon and resupplying shipping by strategic Strait of Malacca. In 1396, a Sumatra prince by the name of Parameswara country out of fear of the attacking Majapahit Empire. Then he landing in Temasek, he killed the local ruler and established himself over the island that is now known as Singapore. As a Singapore. A few years later, he was driven out by a Thai-controlled army and once again was left shouting for the new peace land. Eventually, he moved up the west coast of Malaysia and founded Parameswara, then traveled to in an ant group, he reached a river named Bertam. Legends said that he was resting under a tree. We saw a mouse there kicking his until he was resting under Melaka. In 1414, leading him become Sultan of Melaka. The city was also growing into the prominent trading ground for traders across Asia, notably India, Arabia, and China. As a result, many Chinese migrants the also established contact with the Chinese Empire through the explorer Zheng Yi to protect their territory from the Siamese forces, culminating into the marriage of Sultan Mansur Shah and Putri Anglipo. In time, due to the strategic location between China and India, Malacca came to monopolize the trading routes into the cordon of the global. In 1405, Malacca forged an alliance with the Ming Emperor in order to secure protection against Siamese invaders. And over time, Chinese settled who married local Malays result in what we dub in Baba Nyonya people. Malacca Sultan ruled for 110 years until defeated by Portuguese in 1511. That's all from me. Thank you guys. So after this, Mr. Subhas will continue.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Karuna. Good evening, everyone. I am Subhash Muthusamy, student matrix number JK13035/19. I'll be speaking about the capture of Malacca. The news of Malacca's wealth attracted the attention of Manuel I, King of Portugal, and his hand Admiral Diogo Lopes de Secura to find Malacca, to make a trade compact with its ruler as Portugal's representative east of India. The first European to reach Malacca and Southeast Asia, Secura arrived in Malaysia in the year 1509. Although he was initially well received by Sultan Mahmud Shah, trouble however quickly ensued. The international Muslim trading community convinced Mahmud that the Portuguese were a great threat. Mahmud subsequently captured several of his men, killed the others, and attempted to attack the 4 Portuguese ships. Although they escaped, as the Portuguese had found in India, conquest would be the only way they would establish themselves in Malacca. In April 1511, Alfonso de Albuquerque set sail from Goa to Malacca with a force of some 1,200 men. and 17 or 18 ships. The viceroy made a number of demands, one of which was for permission to build a fortress as a Portuguese trading post near the city. The Sultan refused all the demands. Conflicts was unavoidable, and after 40 days of fighting, Malacca fell to the Portuguese on 24th August 1511. A bitter dispute between Sultan Mahmud and his son Sultan Ahmad also weighed down the Malaccan side. Following the defeat of the Malacca Sultanate on 15 August 1511, in the capture of Malacca, Alfonso de Albuquerque sought to erect a permanent form of fortification in anticipation of the counterattacks by Sultan Mahmud. A fortress was designed and constructed encompassing a hill lining the edge of the seashore on the southeast of the river mouth. On the former side of the Sultan's palace, yes, and Albuquerque remained in Malacca until November. July, the Portuguese bombarded the city. Startled, the Sultan promptly released the prisoners, and Albuquerque then took the chance to further demand a heavy compensation, 300,000 crusados, and authorization to build a fortress wherever he wishes. The Sultan refused. Presumably, Albuquerque had already anticipated the Sultan's response at that point. The governor gathered his captains and revealed that an assault would take place the following morning, 25th of July, day of Santiago. During the negotiations, Albuquerque was visited by representatives of several merchant communities such as Hindus who expressed their support for the Portuguese from India. The Chinese offered to help in any way that they could. Albuquerque requested no more than several barges to help land the troops, saying that he did not wish the Chinese to suffer reprisals should the attack fail. He also invited them over to a galley to watch the fighting safely from afar and authorized any who wished to leave to set sail from Malacca, which left Chinese with a very good impression of the Portuguese. And the Portuguese fleet provided the fire support to the landing troops with its powerful artillery. Albuquerque divided his forces in two groups, a smaller one under command of Don Joe de Lima and a large one which he commanded personally. The landing commenced at 2 a.m. While the Portuguese fleet bombarded enemy position on shore, the infantry rowed their boats into the beaches on either side of the city's bridges. They immediately came under artillery fire from the Malayan stockades, though it was largely ineffective. Albuquerque landed his force west of the bridge known as Upe, whereas Dom Joe de Lima landed on the east side, which is called as Hilir, where the Sultan's palace and mosque were located. Once ashore, gunpowder mines scattered all around, protected by steel helmets and body armor, and with the Fidalgos clad in full plate armor in the lead, the Portuguese charged the Malayan defensive position, shattering any resistance almost immediately. With the stockades overcome, the squadron of Albuquerque pushed the defenders back to the main street and proceeded towards the bridge, where they faced stiff resistance and an attack from the rear. On the east side, the squadron of Dom Joe faced a counterattack by the Royal Corps of War Elephants, commanded by Sultan himself, his son Alauddin, and his son-in-law, the Sultan of Pahang. Briefly shaken, the Portuguese Fidalgos raised their pikes and attacked the Royal Elephant, causing it to turn away in panic, scattering the other elephants and throwing the troops that followed into disarray. The Sultan fell from his elephant and was wounded, but managed to escape amidst the confusion. By the middle of the day, the two Portuguese group had met at the bridge surrounding the last defenders who jumped to the river, where they were intercepted by Portuguese landing barge crews. With the bridge secure, the Portuguese raised canvas sheet to protect the exhausted infantry from the intense sun. The assault was called off, however, when Albuquerque came to realize how short on provision they were, and ordered the troops to embark again, setting the royal palace and the mosque on fire along the way. To prevent Malays from retaking position on the bridge, the following day, the Portuguese seized the junk, armed it with artillery, which included fast-firing breech-loading guns and very long pikes to prevent it from being ran by incendiary raft and towed it towards the bridge. At the river mouth, it ran aground and immediately came under fire. Its captain, Antonio de Abreu, was shot in the face but was unrelenting to his post, declaring he would command the ship from his sickbed if necessary. And and at the river mount, it ran aground, uh, declaring he would command the ship from his sickbed if necessary. And then on 24th August, as the Sultan's resistance waned, Albuquerque decided to take full control of the city, commanding 400 men in ranks of 6 men wide through the city and the streets at the sound of drums and trumpets, eliminating any remaining pockets of resistance. According to Korea, the Malayans were greatly frightened by the Portuguese heavy pikes, which they had never seen before. The cleanup operation took 8 days. Unable to oppose the Portuguese any further, the Sultan gathered his royal treasure and what remained of his forces and finally retreated into the jungle. And that's all from me. Now, Mr. Sri, he will continue. Mr. Sri, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Subhash. It's a nice elaboration about the Portuguese history at Malacca. And for everyone, I'm Sri Ganesh. My metric number is JG10053/17. So I'll continue about the Malacca history about Dutch rule on Malacca. Dutch was the longest period that Malacca was under foreign control. The Dutch ruled for almost 183 years with intermittent British occupation during the Napoleonic Wars. This era saw relative peace with little serious interruption from the Malay kingdoms due to the understandings earlier on forged between the Dutch and the Sultan of Johor in 1606. This time also marked the decline of the importance of Malacca. The Dutch prefer Batavia, now we call it Jakarta. So, as their economic and administrative center in the region and their role in Malacca was to prevent the loss of the city to other European powers and subsequently the competition that will naturally come with it. Thus, in the 17th century, with Malacca ceased to be an important port, the Johor Sultan became the dominant local power in the region due to the opening of its ports and the alliance with the Dutch. In the early 17th century, the Dutch East India Company, also called as VOC, began the campaign to destroy Portuguese power in the east. At that time, the Portuguese had transformed Malacca into an impregnable fortress, controlling access to the sea lanes of the Straits of Malacca and the spice trade there. The Dutch started by launching small incursions and skirmishes against the Portuguese. The first serious attempt was the siege of Melaka in 1606 by the 3rd VOC fleet from the Dutch Republic with 11 ships under Admiral Cornelis Matelief de Jonge that led to the naval battle of Cape Recado. Although the Dutch were routed, the Portuguese fleet of Martim Afonso de Castro, the viceroy of Goa, suffered a heavier casualties and the better rallied the forces of the Sultan of Johor in an alliance with the Dutch and later on with the Achinese. The Dutch with their local allies assaulted and wrested Malacca from the Portuguese in January 1641. The combined Dutch-Johor effort effectively destroyed the last bastion of Portuguese power, removing their influence in the Malay archipelago. As per the agreement with Johor in 1606, the Dutch took control of Malacca and agreed not to seek territories or wage war with the Malay kingdoms. Malacca was controlled as a colony of the VOC, that's called the Dutch. All the chief administrators of Malacca were Dutch governors, except for the brief period that the city was under British residence during the Napoleonic Wars. The Dutch also improved and expanded the Portuguese fortress and built walls to protect the harbour and expanded city. During their rule, the famous city hall of Stadius was also constructed, which still stands until today at Malacca city. Malacca was ceded to the British in the Anglo-Dutch Treaty of 1824 in exchange of Bensolin on Sumatra. From 1824 to 1942, Malacca was under the rule of the British, first by the British East India Company and then as a crown colony. Due to dissatisfaction with the British jurisdiction over Nanning, Dole Said, a local chief, fought the East India Company in a war from 1831 to 1832, which resulted in a decisive British victory. It formed part of the Straits settlements, together with Singapore and Penang. Malacca went briefly under the rule of Empire of Japan in 1942 until 1944 during the World War II. So after the dissolution of this crown colony, Malacca became part of the Malayan Union on 1st April 1946, which later became the Federation of Malaya on 1st February 1948. Then, as everyone knows, Federation of Malaya is changed to Malaysia. So for the latest, on 15 April 1989, Malacca was declared a historical city. It was then also listed as the UNESCO World Heritage Site since 7 July 2008. Now, Malacca became one of the famous tourism spots in Malaysia. So, as the history of Malacca, I think I finish it, and my friend Miss Reno will continue to talk more about the tourism in Malacca. Thank you.
Hi, hello. Good evening to my fellow friends. I'm Renuga with my metric number JK13005/19. I would like to talk about A Formosa. That is one of the tourism place at Malacca. A Formosa is most than just quick photo stop opportunity for tourists. Built in 1511, the settlement used to sprawl across a whole hillside, but now only a lone gate, Porta de Santiago, remains. One of the oldest surviving European architectural remains in Asia. It is set beside the Istana Kesultanan on Jalan Kota. Formosa is perhaps Malacca's best-known sightseeing spot. Originally constructed by Alfonso de Albuquerque, who led the Portuguese invasion on the Malacca Sultanate. The remains of the fort is now a crumbling whitewashed gatehouse and is located downhill from St. Paul's Church. In the 16th century, Formosa housed the entire Portuguese administration, including its hospitals, 5 churches along it, stockades, and 4 key towers. One tower was a 4-story keep, the others were an ammunition storage room, captain's residence, and officers' quarters. The rest of the bastion comprised of townhouses clustered inside the fortress walls. The fort was expanded in 1586 to accommodate Malacca's growing population. I think that's all from me. For further, I will pass to Mr. Dave. Here you go, Dave.
Yes, firstly, very good evening for my fellow friends. I want to go with my metric number JK1278/19, and I would like to talk about the tourism of the Melaka, about the location Christchurch, Melaka. I would like to start from Christchurch, built by the Dutch when they took possession of Melaka from the Portuguese. It's one of Melaka's most defining structures, and also situated along, it's called Jalan Gereja in Malay, and also known as Church Street in English. It is an essentially recognizable as black brick red building with a huge white cross at the top of the building. And of course, it's sitting opposite the statues. Christchurch was built in 1753 to celebrate a century of Dutch occupation by Dutchess. And also the interior of the cathedral has 200 years old handmade pews, decorative fan lights, and also that honor Dutch soldiers and local things are provided there. And also the Christchurch is located near to Malacca's Chinatown Center, and also moreover of that, across the bridge from the Jonker Street, it is one of the most popular sightseeing scene of the place. A lot of colorful tree shows is available there, and you can pay also for ride it. And directly that place opposite is the historical museum and ethnopaganal museum. The area is steeped in Baba Nyonya culture with opulent Baba merchants houses and elegantly observed Nyonya restaurant that line the historical roads. Christchurch is a small once inside. The right beside those there is a long table with brochures, and also there are about 10 rows of pews before the main entrance, and the whole place has all light fixtures and plenty of worn but well kept like the original place. And I think that's all from me, and I'll go to Miss Priya.